So I've just heard, after making a video about the Fury, Chisora and Cleverly Bellew fights on the same night, that Billy Joe Saunders and Chris Eubank Jr. will be facing off in the All-British middleweight class on the Fury undercard. It's a fantastic fight. Really pleased to see this one being made, and many congratulations to Frank Warren and to Box Nation for getting this one sorted. It's a huge fight, which is going to be very entertaining and a lot of interest. Now, I've just finished filming a video seconds before I read this news on one of the newspapers and on BBC Sport, that this fight's been made. I'm wondering, so for those who haven't watched my previous video, it's centred around Eddie Hearn scheduling Bellew Cleverly on the same night as Frank Warren doing Fury at Chisora, and I questioned whether it was a coincidence due to the Kell Brook card being cancelled, or whether this was some sort of tactic from Eddie Hearn. Now, either way, Frank Warren has stepped it up a notch by putting this one on the bill, because this is a massive fight and could headline a show in its own right. And I think in my previous video I already suggested I thought Chisora versus Fury was actually a better fight than Bellew Cleverly, and I think with this on the bill it makes it a far bigger spectacle and a far bigger show already. So I'm even more excited for that fight now. I think it says a lot that Eubank's handlers are ready to step him up to this kind of fight so quickly. It really suggests that they're very confident in their man. He must be doing very well in the bill, because it's an early fight for someone to be thrown in with a guy like Billy Joe Saunders. It really suggests that they're very confident in him winning, and they think he is top level. And you know, Chris Eubank Sr. has made a lot of comments about how he thinks nobody out there could beat Eubank Jr. apart from Andre Ward, and this suggests that he actually believes that by throwing him in with Saunders. My personal 2 pennies worth on the fight is that I'd be siding with Saunders. I think Saunders' experience is possibly going to tell in this one. Chris Eubank Jr., I understand why they haven't rushed him in terms of quality of opponents. I'm not criticising the fact that with a young, inexperienced fighter they've given him an easy ride in terms of opponents up to this point. I don't say that I'd have done it differently. What I will say is the lack of quality he's faced in his recent fights hasn't prepared him for someone of Saunders' capability. Saunders' footwork, his hand speed, his combination punching, his movement is going to be on a different level to anything Eubank Jr. has faced in a professional ring so far. Certainly competitively, not saying obviously he sparred Frotz, he sparred a high level of opponent, but in terms of a professional fight where it counts, Eubank Jr. won't have come across someone with the skill, the movement, the experience of Billy Joe Saunders. And I think at early stages of careers that's really going to tell. I'm a huge fan of Saunders. I think he's a real class act. The only sort of negative about him is he doesn't appear to pack sort of jaw-dropping power. Eubank Jr. probably is the puncher going into this fight, but I've seen Saunders fight a lot, and I wouldn't have cause to question Saunders' chin at this stage. And obviously Eubank Jr.'s fought a lot of sort of lower opposition, and maybe his powers looked better than it actually is due to the opposition he's been in with. I mean, Saunders has fought guys like John Ryder, Matthew Hall, Spike O'Sullivan. This is all a sort of decent level of opposition, and you'd like to see Eubank in with one of those guys before he stepped up to Billy's level. I think it may be that Eubank Jr. is the second coming of Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather, a real pound for pound great in future like his father thinks. But unless that is the case, and unless Eubank Jr. is really going to be like a world-class fighter in the future, it's going to be very hard for him to win at this early stage of his career without having had that professional experience as someone of even close to Saunders' class. So I think it's a real tough fight. I certainly applaud both parties for making it. I assume what's happened here is Saunders has really readied himself for a WBO title shot when the news that Quillen was vacating, and unexpectedly out of nowhere that shot was given to Andrade, who was the light middleweight belt holder. So I imagine Saunders has become very, very frustrated. He thought he was going to get a massive fight, big payday, his chance to hit the headlines, and now that that isn't happening, he's demanded the biggest fights, and he's not prepared just to go back to British level and have someone who's not going to make him much money and move his career in the right direction. So this fight is going to generate interest, it's going to generate income, and I expect it to be extremely entertaining in the lead up with all the press conferences, and extremely entertaining fight. One thing's for sure, Eubank's not going to be able to do, standing there in silence and not moving, showboating like he's done against other opponents. So we're going to see the best of both guys. Early thoughts is that Billy will take the fight, probably in a points decision, but really entertaining. Congrats to all involved for making it. Please do check out my earlier video that was uploaded just before this one regarding Matchroom and Box Nation doing cards on the same night. In that video I speculate that I will be what's in the Box Nation coverage. Now I confirm that I'll be what's in the Box Nation coverage. This is really, really exciting stuff.